I know it's going to be inconvenient and financial hardship, and I hate that, but this is the best chance I've seen to force a solution to border security.
But don't you see why that might sound dismissive to people who don't need that paycheck 6 weeks from now? They need it now?
It's not dismissive. I understand their concern, but we can make them whole.
Well, it's not entirely clear we can make them whole. That was Republican Senator Lindsey Graham discussing the plight of federal workers. And while he says workers can be made whole, let's look at what could happen to them in the meantime. Many of the 800,000 workers, federal workers, will start going without pay in the next week and a half, and those missed paychecks could quickly cause lasting damage to personal lives. As bills come due, workers risk falling behind on credit card payments, seriously damaging their credit rating, which further hinders their ability to move forward in life. And February 1st, as it approaches, many are going to face the prospect of missing rent or mortgage payments, and that goes beyond damaging their credit score. The Office of Personnel and Management tweeted these sample letters to send creditors and landlords, directing legal questions to, quote, your personal attorney. I got to tell you, there are a lot of Americans who don't have a personal attorney. Federal workers going through custody fights. Most Americans don't have a personal.
I mean, yeah. Ali, there was a woman on air before who has a job, who is pawning her personal belongings so she can afford her medicine. Like, give me a break. She doesn't have a personal attorney.
It's a remarkable response. And federal workers going through custody fights, by the way, over their children could risk losing court fights because custody is typically not granted to parents who don't have regular income. Those form letters, by the way, that the Office of Personnel Management sent out won't help put gas in workers' cars. You can't take that to the gas station. You can't take that to the grocery store. But that is a reality. Many Americans, through no fault of their own, live paycheck to paycheck. And if workers or their children face chronic medical conditions, this actually could endanger health, that people can't afford doctor's appointments or medication. So it's just important that we're not dismissive and we realize that for not just those 800,000 people, but government contractors as well, who, by the way, won't get the back pay.
Ali, when the president says people will just have to readjust, the amount of Americans who don't have $400 of disposable income in case of an emergency, it's staggering. There's no readjustment.
Do you remember during the hurricanes how we talked to people who won't leave and we ask them why, and they say they don't have the extra money for the tank of gas or the hotel rooms or the groceries that have. Like, this is real for Americans. This is not an abstraction.
Yes. All right. Joining us now, NBC's Tammy Leitner. She is live at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. She spoke with a family impacted by the shutdown. Tammy, take us there. What are you hearing from them?
Hey, Steph, you know, this family is unique in that both the husband and the wife are contract employees here at the Kennedy Space Center. Now, what that means is that when this shutdown ends, most likely they won't get back pay. They're furloughed right now, and they've worked very hard to save a nest egg, but pretty soon they're going to have to dip into that nest egg, so they're worried. 2 young children, which is adding to their concern. They also tell me they feel like they're being used as political pawns by the government. Let's go ahead and listen to what else they had to say.
You feel as though the federal workers and the contract workers are being used as political pawns. What did you mean by that?
Like I say, they're using it as a method to get support for their positions. I mean, so the president wants a wall, and he's saying the people who aren't furloughed, who are not getting paid, will understand. They'll back us. Most of them want us to do this. I don't think that's true.
Is it true?
I don't think so.
You know, they also have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old child in daycare here at the Kennedy Space Center. They're obviously not going to daycare because of the shutdown. And they tell me that every single day their 4-year-old daughter gets up and she says, "Mommy, am I going to school today?" And every single day they have to tell her, "No, you're not going to school today." So their entire family is impacted by this shutdown. Stephanie?
It's remarkable. All right, Tammy, thanks very much for that. Tammy Leitner for us in Florida. All right, joining us now is MarketWatch personal finance reporter Jacob Passy, who's been also following the effect that this has. Jacob, Lindsey Graham said these folks will eventually get paid.
Eventually.
It's just not that simple, though, for people's lives.
You can't tell when you go to the grocery store and
I'm getting paid in a few weeks.
Eventually, I'll get you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult if your mortgage payment or your rent is due before you get paid. And, I've been reading about, if you're a contract worker who wasn't working, you may not get paid.
Right.
That's not set in stone yet. And even if you do get paid, that's of little help if you've already been evicted.
Right.
So I've been doing some reporting. I report on the housing industry, and a report came out from Zillow, the real estate company, that around $430 million in rent payments and mortgage payments will be owed this month by the 800,000 furloughed and unpaid workers. And that's a massive amount of money. It's about, 189 million in rent payments, about 249 million in mortgage payments.
And by the way, maybe banks can do something about mortgage payments, but it does hurt people's credit ratings. But for a lot of landlords, they're also not in a position to
This is really
just tell people you don't have to pay your rent for a couple months.
Because it's not like, these landlords also are basically small business owners. They need to get paid.
Exactly. Landlords have to pay the mortgage too. They didn't necessarily buy the property all in cash. And so they're expecting your rent payment to help offset the payments that they owe and the upkeep that they owe. And so, this situation can very easily have massive ripple effects across the country. It's not just the furloughed workers, not just the unpaid workers.
Well, and by the way, it's also those businesses around them that depend on their business, the grocery stores, the corner stores, the bodegas, whatever.
Exactly. If the landlord can't pay the lawn maintenance guys because he hasn't gotten rent from 10 of his tenants that month, they're out of work. And then we're not even thinking about, Americans who are trying to buy a home right now could very easily encounter difficulty because of the agencies that are closed.
Walk me through that.
So let's take, for example, if you're an American trying to buy a home with a USDA loan right now, the USDA loan program has been put on hold indefinitely because of the shutdown. So loans that were already in the pipeline are not going to be processed, and you can't submit a loan. And so around 100,000 mortgages are done through USDA loans, which are loans that are backed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And those are loans in small towns in middle America. Those are loans going to farmers, folks in the exurbs. These aren't folks in major cities. These are folks,
part of America that's already struggling.
And by the way, we saw Ogden, Utah, where the IRS has a big, 75% of those workers there are out of work. So that also happens. There are entire communities that are dependent on the federal government in which lots of people are now furloughed and not getting or not getting a paycheck, and that's going to affect a lot more businesses in those areas. I have one question for you, though. A lot of federal workers who might say, look, it's a low unemployment area, let me take some other work in the meantime, can't get permission to do that because the people who give them permission are shut down.
Exactly. And it's, if you're a...
What?
Yeah. You have to get permission. If you're a federal worker and you want to take other work, you have to get permission from the federal government. But you can't get the permission during the shutdown.
Yeah, you can't get the permission, and, who knows if you're going back to work tomorrow. So, is someone going to really take you on for that second job, knowing that you may not be around to be put on the schedule a week from now? And then there's all the unpaid workers, all the folks who are the TSA workers, the air traffic control workers, the folks who are...
High-stress jobs already added to the stress of not sure I can make my payments.
Exactly, and those are people who are already working, so they can't, take on a second job.
It's amazing. Jacob, thank you for keeping this real and personal for us.
Remember, there was a deal last year. Congress found a way. They found a way to keep the government open. The president
agreed to that deal.
And then, do you remember what happened?
Right-wing personalities told the president that his base is going to desert him, so he changed his mind.